Severe weather slammed the tri-state half a dozen times so far in 2024. In one day alone, 19 tornadoes tore across the tri-state, 7 of which were EF2s. On Memorial Day weekend, 6 tornadoes carved paths through southern Indiana, Illinois, and western Kentucky. And July broke tornado records as remnants of Hurricane Beryl spawned the first recorded EF3 tornado in the month of July. The skies have been friendly this year at times too, with a spectacular total solar eclipse on April the 8th and a dazzling display of the Aurora Borealis in May. Now as we head into fall and winter, will a strengthening La Nina bring out the worst of the seasons? The 14 First Alert Weather Team takes a look at what's next and is working to keep you prepared and safe with the 14 First Alert Fall-Winter Outlook. I'm Jeff Lyons, and this is the 14 First Alert Fall-Winter Outlook. Our goal here is to get you better informed about this active weather season that's coming up. We have our full team working for you tonight. Michael Fecka will look into some of the things that cause active weather here in the fall. Arden Gregory will show you how to cope with different types of wintry precip and how to get prepared with the 14 First Alert app. And Byron Douglas takes us out to school as part of our outreach program in the community. And if you have storm anxiety, you'll want to hear Brianne Boswell's advice. But before we get into that, let's talk about the weather at hand. As we enter into fall, the jet stream starts to become an active participant in the weather here over the tri-state because it starts to move back down into the United States. Anytime we get these dips in the jet stream, it tends to create active weather. It brings a lot of energy down, sometimes cold air, and drawing warm air up from the south. And that combination can lead to severe weather, even in the cold months. We often have tornadoes and severe weather too. You've seen a lot of weather in the headlines lately. We've had billion-dollar disasters, 23 of them this year alone, including Hurricanes Milton and Helene. And you see that's a dramatic increase of high-end weather events that have affected the United States. Since the 1980s, that number has skyrocketed. Everything from hurricanes to heat waves, tornadoes, and flooding. Here in the tri-state, we've had our share of active weather this year so far. 31 tornadoes, which is a near record for us. Tornadoes that have affected nearly every county in the tri-state. The year kicked off with a big tornado outbreak on April the 2nd. We had 14, including EF2 tornadoes that merged out over Posey County. That's very unusual for that to happen. We continued our active spring on Memorial Day weekend when a long track EF3 virtually followed the same path that the December 10th, 2021 tornado followed. And finally, July was unprecedented. 7 tornadoes in that month, which is a record, including the first ever recorded EF3 that happened in Mount Vernon. So we've been through a lot of weather so far. It's important to remember, though, that our tornadoes don't just happen in the summer. In fact, a lot of them happen in the cool months, October through February and early March. And it's those tornadoes that often cause the most injuries. As you see here, November, December tops on injuries and unfortunately fatalities too. So that's why we take that cool severe season very seriously as we move into these months. Remember, at this time of the year, the timing is off. Tornadoes and severe weather often happen at night. They typically are stronger than the tornadoes that we get during the spring and summer, and they tend to be faster movers as well because of the stronger dynamics from the jet stream to push them along. Some of our tornadoes have moved at over 70 miles per hour. And during this time of the year, basically the cool season, we have had some of our most significant tornadoes across the tri-state. Now there is one thread with these years, one thing that all of these tornadoes have in common. Michael Fecka is going to be back to talk about that factor as we go into the rest of this cool season. In the meantime, we want you to learn from what we're going to tell you tonight and to be prepared. And we want to check your weather knowledge. What does the acronym ENSO stand for? Is it environmental no snow option, El Nino Southern Oscillation, or extra north-south oscillation? What does the acronym ENSO stand for? It's El Nino Southern Oscillation. I'm here with Michael Fecca now, and you have been tracking severe weather here in the tri-state. You've also been looking into El Nino, La Nina. What did you find out?
Well, it looks more and more likely that we're going to be entering what's called a weak La Nina phase of the El Nino Southern Oscillation. And what that can do is set the stage for a more active severe weather season during our cooler months, so November, December, January, and February.
Okay, and I know you put a lot of work into this, so take us away and show us how it all comes together.
Well, it's looking increasingly likely that during the fall and winter months, we will have a La Nina set up across the central and eastern Pacific, which is that anomaly of cooler than average surface temperature waters on the ocean. What that can do is have an impact on our jet stream here in the United States. So we have the polar jet stream that's oftentimes locked up to our north in El Nino years. It becomes a little bit more variable, a little bit weaker. So we could see a few more dips in from the north that could bring in some more frequent cooler shots from the North Pole. Now we also have the Pacific jet. Now what this happens is it also becomes more variable and a little bit weaker. So that oftentimes gets shunted a little bit farther to the north, and that adds a little bit more moisture into the flow here. As you can see, that would go right over the Ohio River Valley. And now the difference between these two jet streams here is that that polar jet is going to be bringing in that cooler air from the north, while that Pacific jet stream is going to lift to the north and allow some more warm air from the south to interact with the region as well. So that's going to set up a pretty tight temperature gradient across the tri-state. And that's going to lead to unstable weather and at least a little bit more activity, especially with that added moisture thanks to the Pacific jet stream. So by that point, you get more activity. You also see more instances where severe weather may be possible during the fall and winter months. So La Nina can set the stage for a more active fall severe weather season here. So let's look at some data points here. Tornadoes going back from 1990 all the way to 2023. La Nina years highlighted in the blue there, El Nino highlighted in red, and neutral years highlighted in yellow. You can just see by looking at it that these blue years, these blue bars, oftentimes have some of our more numerous and strongest tornadoes that we've ever seen here in the tri-state. But we can isolate this even more because that took into account all of the months. So that's fall, winter, summer, and spring. If we isolate it to just the cool season severe months, which is November, December, January, and February, you can see that most of the time that we've seen tornadoes during that time period of the season, we're looking at La Nina years here. So that oftentimes sets the stage for a more active severe weather season.
You know, it's really interesting how something so far away can affect the weather here in the tri-state. What's your thinking for severe weather for this season then, based on what you told us?
So what we're thinking here is, by looking at all the data we just discussed, La Nina can oftentimes set the stage for a more active weather pattern. So we're going to see a little bit more of an increase in precipitation through the winter, and that can oftentimes, just with more and more storms rolling through, increase our instances for severe weather and tornadoes, even during the cooler months, so fall and winter.
And we tend to focus, for good reasons, on severe weather, preparedness and so forth here in the tri-state. It can also lead to winter weather, so I'm going to put you out there. How much snow do you think we're going to get this year?
All right, so with all the number crunching and, you know, just a good feeling, I think this year we might be a little bit above average in terms of snowfall. I'm thinking maybe around 14 inches.
14 inches, Michael Fecca. What is the most dangerous type of precipitation? Is it snow, sleet, or freezing rain? What is the most dangerous type of precipitation? The most dangerous type of precipitation is freezing rain. Arden Gregory is here now, and you know, the thing about winter that we always dread is what's going to fall from the sky in addition to how much, right?
Yeah, around here, you know, we get a lot of those combination systems where sometimes it starts as rain, then it changes over to wintry weather, and things can get messy out there fast.
And that's a big question we get, so I hope you can break it down for us on how to know what's going to fall from the sky.
Here in the tri-state, we get lots of different types of precipitation during the winter months. The two obvious ones would be sometimes you get rain and sometimes you get snow, and it all has to do with the temperature and what the temperature is as you go farther up into the atmosphere, because sometimes we also get sleet and freezing rain, which lands somewhere in between. Now, the freezing point is 32 degrees. So if we have 32 degrees or colder from the base of the cloud all the way down to the ground, that's when you end up with snow. If it's warmer than 32 degrees, that's when you end up with rain. Sleet and freezing rain are a little more nuanced because you've got a pocket of air somewhere that's above 32 degrees, but what's happening at the surface also plays a role here. So with sleet, you start out with temperatures above 32 degrees, somewhere higher in the atmosphere. So what may have started out as snow will actually melt, but then it gets colder as you get closer to the surface, so that melted snow refreezes and you basically end up with little frozen raindrops, little bits of ice falling from the sky. With freezing rain, that snow melts as it falls through that warm layer of air, but then you've got a shallow bit of cold air right down at the surface, and that's when it freezes on contact. So that's where you end up with an ice storm, essentially, where everything is coated with ice, but as it's falling, it's essentially rain, and it's just that, it's there in the name, freezing rain. So it falls as rain but freezes on contact. Now, if you're ever standing at the window or you're outside and you're watching this fall and you're trying to figure out which one you're looking at, here's a little guide, starting with freezing rain. Like I said, it falls as liquid raindrops, so looking at it, it looks just like rain, but then as it reaches the ground, it freezes on contact and coats everything in ice. That's where you end up with very slick, very dangerous roads and sidewalks. The trees get those heavy limbs that start to bend down under the weight of the ice. Sleet falls as little pellets, so you'll notice one big difference between sleet and snow or freezing rain is it will bounce when it lands. Then snow, sort of the obvious and easiest to identify one there. It falls as flakes, and they're big and soft, and they pile up as they hit the ground. They don't bounce, and they're not going to give that same weighted down look that you're going to get from freezing rain. And freezing rain is also oftentimes clear looking, so it's very dangerous and easy to slip on if you're not paying attention.
And of course, once you know what's going to come down, the big question is keeping up with it all. I guess that's the main thing we like to preach around here, keeping up with the weather. Yeah,
we can know what's going to happen, but if you're not listening when we tell you, you're not going to know what's going to happen. So there's lots of different ways to keep up with the forecast here at 14 News. Obviously, we start every day at 4:30 with 14 News Sunrise, but then we also do a streaming show called Sunrise Extra immediately after that. We've got midday shows at 14 News at 11 and at noon. We do this new afternoon update every afternoon at 2:30, then our usual evening shows at 4, 5, and 6, with another streaming show every night at 9 before 14 News at 10. So we've got round-the-clock updates, and another really good tool is obviously the 14 First Alert app.
The 14 First Alert app, absolutely. And before you go, we're going to put you on the hook too. How much snow are we going to get this winter?
I'm not feeling as bold as Byron and Michael are. I really think we'll probably come in at less than half a foot. I say maybe 5 inches.
How many outreach visits did the 14 First Alert weather team go on last school year? Was it 81, 65, or 42? The weather team visited 81 schools between September 2023 and May 2024. 81 school visits, that's exactly right. Byron Douglas here, my partner of 30 years in weather. It's good to see you too.
Without severe weather. A lot of times when we get together, we're dealing with severe weather.
Usually a tag team, but 30 years is a great run for both of us here. And of course, most of those school visits, or many of them, were you. You love to go out to the schools.
I love it, and it was so much fun talking about the eclipse this year and, of course, our severe weather. But now we transition. It's a lot of talk about how much snow we're going to pick up.
Exactly. You never know what kids are going to say. Let's go out to St. Philip's School with Byron Douglas.
Preston, tell us a little bit about some of the things you've learned in weather from my talk today and then your weather unit.
So I watched this movie at home, and it's ancient aliens and lots of planets.
What are some of the things that you learned today during my talk?
I learned a lot about planets and clouds and tornadoes and hurricanes.
Once we did this activity where it was a volcano eruption type thing. Got a jar, we put it in the center, we put dirt around it, muddy dirt, and we could not get any dirt inside the jar or else it would ruin it. Here, I'll tell you what we put in it. We put in flour, we put in baking soda, and then we put in vinegar, and we put in some red dye. Whenever we add in the vinegar, it will explode red stuff.
What's your favorite lunch here at St. Philip?
No, I like their chicken and dumplings.
Chicken and dumplings, when do they, that's pretty sophisticated. How often do they have that?
Not often.
Not that you want to hear this, when I was a kid, we got to go home for lunch till about 6th grade. Through 6th grade, you could go home for lunch, but you could not be late coming back. How much snow would you want this year?
I would want a whole hill of snow all over my house, all over my backyard. I want all the snow in the world.
If we had a lot of snow, I'd be the one that has to shovel off the driveway.
Oh, you're the one that has to do all the work on the driveway?
Probably.
Wow, pretty typical.
I would like maybe 1-2 feet of snow. I don't want a lot.
1 to 2 feet. Now, do you want all that at once or coming over the course of a season?
The course of the season.
If we would get a big payoff late this fall in winter, what do you like about sledding?
I have a big cornfield in my backyard, and there's lots of hills to go sledding on.
He did a very good job, and I like science, and I like weather. I like all of that.
Well, you like a little bit of everything, but you definitely love snow. One thing you're correct on, we are due for a rough winter. We haven't had one. It's been a long time because we only get about 10, 12 inches of snow in a season.
Oh, that was great. Brian Sissel put that piece together.
He does an excellent job.
work.
He helped us out. Wonderful work during the eclipse as well.
Yeah, so what's your favorite part about getting out in front of the kids?
I like to talk to students about all the advances in Doppler radar and how can they look outside. We can go outside on a sunny day and help make a forecast for the next day without all the models, and they can take that back to their parents, and they really enjoy that aspect of it. Just reading the skies and reading the storm clouds as well to help you out as far as severe weather is concerned.
And you always hit on safety too, right? That's
Yes.
a great group.
And sometimes they'll take that back to their parents, and their parents will learn from, we build up from the students.
Yeah, it's surprising what even kindergartners and first graders take away. And
Kindergartners are
repeat to their
doing
folks.
weather units. A lot of schools now, it starts at a young age.
They are. Well, you can't start young enough out there. Now, I know the big question was how much snow are we going to get this season? You probably feel that when every place you go. I'm going to put you on the spot. How much snow do you think we'll get
Well,
this
we're
season?
talking with students. They're all going for high numbers. I can't go against them, so I'm going 17.5. Of course, I want some of that to occur on the weekends while I'm off duty.
Peer pressure. I'm going with 5 inches of snow for the season. Brianne Boswell is here now with our Peace of Mind project here on 14 News. And, you know, we hear a lot about storm anxiety this time of the year.
Absolutely. We do too as well in the newsroom. And anxiety is a mental health condition driven by fear and worry. It's definitely a very real thing. So I spoke with people in the community as well as our meteorologist Byron Douglas and our mental health partners about fear-related anxiety when it comes to weather.
Tornadoes, floods, and ice. Nothing unfamiliar to those that call the tri-state home.
The United States is a world leader in thunderstorms, in severe weather, and of course we have our share of it here.
For some, those severe weather conditions cause fear and worry, including for Leslie Hurdle.
I feel like a swirling sensation down into the pit of my stomach. Usually my breathing picks up a little bit.
Anticipating the arrival of any type of storm can strike fear, worry, and in some cases, anxiety. Mental health professionals say another way to explain weather-related anxiety is a trauma response, which is described as a reaction after exposure to a traumatic weather event.
Usually if there's talk of tornadoes, that's when I'm on high alert.
There's also acute anxiety, explained as a worry about something due to an experience from the past.
You have to have a plan and practice your plan to gain confidence.
That can be a plan you create individually or a plan you create together with your family. The important thing is to practice that plan and practice often.
Everybody has a role, and you gain confidence by practicing your role.
Another way to help storm-related fear and anxiety is to be informed and educated. Hurdle took weather classes to know what was going on.
And I feel like that has helped my anxiety with weather a lot. It's helpful to know all that, the cloud formations, and just so I don't get too anxious when I see the clouds outside.
Something is new. Purple, that means take action. A tornado has already been verified, indicated from a spotter from the National Weather Service, so take action. A warning, take action. You might only have a few minutes. Sometimes you won't have much time at all. A watch is vigilant. Maybe you have several hours before the severe weather event. A severe thunderstorm or a tornado watch won't always produce severe weather.
The 14 News weather team works around the clock to ensure all corners of the tri-state are always aware and prepared for any weather conditions that may come.
I just think it's awesome that we have the weather team and the technology that we have.
It's really interesting. You know, we get a lot of calls about storm anxiety. What should I tell people to do when they call?
Absolutely. We have a whole page on 14news.com dedicated to the mental health of our viewers. If you click on that, you'll find resources as well as stories that we've covered to help with topics just like this one.
Okay, thanks, Brianne, and thanks to the Peace of Mind Project. Which winter did Evansville receive the most snowfall? Was it 1917-18, 1977-78, or 2004-2005? Evansville received its biggest winter snowfall ever in 1917-18 with 67.7 inches of snow. This is the big moment. Our fall-winter outlook culminates with the winter outlook for the tri-state. Arden, Byron, and Michael and I have conferred, and we've looked back at data and made our predictions, and here's how it plays out. First, just for a little background, La Nina winters tend to be less snowy than average there. If you see most of the bars there, not too much snow at all. But we have had some blockbuster years of over 15 inches of snow. So that's the background on snow in this type of environment. And of course, we've had severe weather, a lot of it, including some significant tornadoes that have also happened in weak La Nina years. So that has factored into our forecast too. And here it is. For December, we're thinking, or for the winter, we're thinking on snowfall, the average now, 3 to 5 inches of snow, 1 2+ inch event, and that would likely happen in early January. For temperatures, we're expecting cooler than normal in December and then a gradual warming trend through January and much warmer than normal in February, which would probably snuff out snow chances unless we get a fluke storm in there. And for rainfall, we're expecting below average rain, the extension of our drought conditions here at least through December, but then a normal January and perhaps a stormy and very wet February across the tri-state. And in case you were wondering, we did keep track of everybody's snow prediction. Of course, these are just educated guesses and wild guesses at that. And the weather team has sort of a split decision. Arden, Gregory, and I both on the conservative side there, around 4 to 5 inches of snow. Byron went big this year, go big or don't go at all, 17.5 inches for his forecast and 14 inches from Michael Fecka. We'll see how that plays out. In the meantime, please stay safe. Stay tuned to 14 First Alert, and thank you for watching. The concept of alert days is very simple.
It's giving you advance notice when we might have severe weather or disruptive weather.
Forecasting in the tri-state is tricky because we get literally everything.
We can have big swings in temperatures, heavy rain, tornadoes.
Severe weather can happen anytime. It doesn't matter the season.
The idea that we can alert you several days in advance, I think, has led to everybody staying more in step with the weather and staying safer too.